Chronicles of the Origin System, Excerpt 27. Ivara. A tale steeped in shadow and blood, a legend born from the darkest recesses of Orokin history. Ivara's story begins with a nightmare, the Myrmidon, a beast cloaked in myth and horror, a hunter of warframes, its prey erased from history, its victims forgotten. It was a creature that no warframe had ever defeated, until Ivara. Summoned alongside two comrades to a cavernous massacre, Ivara descended into a labyrinth of death, littered with the broken bodies of Orokin Dax. There, in the malevolent glow of bioluminescent fungi, they found the Myrmidon. Clad in red and gold armor, it moved with terrifying purpose, silencing her comrades one by one. A clutching gesture nullified their powers, rendering them helpless before its emerald light, a light that reduced them to nothingness. But Ivara was different. She adapted. As her cloaking failed, as her arrows faltered, she observed the Myrmidon's movements, the device on its wrist that fueled its power. She ran walls, fired pistols, and baited her enemy into overconfidence. When her moment came, the huntress struck. With her Rubico, she shattered the Myrmidon's device in a single precise shot. Even disarmed, the Myrmidon lashed out, its emerald fury nearly claiming her. Yet Ivara, with her Artemis bow, turned the tide. In a desperate gambit, she loosed an arrow that curved impossibly in the air, piercing the Myrmidon's weapon and silencing its wrath forever. The battle ended with her stripping the beast of its armor one arrow at a time, exposing the grotesque mockery of an Orokin beneath. The Myrmidon was dragged before the Council of Seven, its battered body a trophy of her triumph. But Ivara's victory came at a cost. Her fallen comrades were dismissed as failures. Sacrificed to prove her loyalty and adaptability, Executor Balas, cold and calculating, proclaimed her worthy. She would live. She would be remembered. Her companions, forgotten. This tragedy shaped Ivara into a symbol of stealth and precision, an unparalleled force during the Tenno Rebellion against their Orokin masters. As the rebellion grew, Ivara's versatility became legendary. Her bow and its mystical arrows, capable of inducing sleep, cloaking allies, or unleashing rapid destruction, turned the tide in countless battles. She struck from the shadows, a relentless predator, dismantling Orokin defenses with unmatched efficiency. When the Orokin fell, their golden empire collapsing under the weight of Tenno retribution, Ivara stood as a testament to survival. She endured not because of loyalty, but because of her cunning, adaptability, and refusal to be broken by the cruelty of her creators. She is a huntress, born of darkness and loss, and her story reminds us that survival in the Origin System often comes at an unbearable cost. A solitary dance, a silent rebellion against the void's cruel apathy. She seeks not glory, but the faint hope of rekindling a light the universe has long forgotten. Ivara, the silent predator. Oh hey Dreamers, fancy meeting you here. Hope you guys had a happy holidays and a great New Year's. This is our showcase of Ivara the Silent Predator. This is a Navigator focused build capitalizing on max melee damage. So let's jump right into the abilities because this is a special build. So jumping right into it, our passive allows us to sense nearby enemies within 50 meters. Extremely self-explanatory. Look at the radar, you can see enemies within 50 meters. This is great. Quiver allows us to cycle through and shoot one of 4 tactical arrows. We have Bubble, Noise, Sleep, and our pretty much main one that we're going to be using, our Dash Wire. Now this is going to give us a critical damage boost of 223% when we pair this with the Augment Empowered Quiver. We will have that on there, but I promise you, you won't really actually need to use it based on how we set up this build. The versatility of it is quite tasty. So you'll have the option, you'll be able to get that 223% crit damage boost, but with the new 99 update, DE did patch and fix the ability to snapshot Empowered Quiver. So keep that in mind. Don't use it as a crutch. Navigator. Now this is ultimately, this is our ability. This is what we are going to be using almost in every single instance of damage. So assume control of any projectile launched by Ivara and guide it to the target. Now, we build this a very specific way, all right? Normally, a lot of people would include a high amount of duration for this build. That way they're able to, stay invisible for a long time, use Navigator for a long time. What we're actually doing is we're going to be going into a negative duration build, but we're going to be using negative duration to increase the multiplier growth of Navigator. So that 11.15x, which actually will be greatly increased by the use of our Arcanes and Empowered, will have a multiplier growth of 8x because we have 13% duration. Now, normally, the negative duration amount is going to drastically increase the drain of the ability. But as you notice, the drain per second on this is 0.75. This is because we are going to be using some very specific mods within the build of the Warframe itself to allow us to really drop down the drain. And that is by spiking the efficiency technically past 175%. Now you ask yourself, efficiency doesn't go over 175%. Well, it doesn't, and it does. Now, the program itself will not read that you're going past 175%, but by slotting in more efficiency, you actually will drastically increase, or in this sense, decrease the drain per second without showcasing an efficiency increase. So we love that. Now we go to Prowl, become invisible and steal loot from unsuspecting enemies or take out prey with deadly headshots. Now we will always be invisible with Prowl. And with this, we're going to be able to, kind of take advantage of the use of Arcane Crescendo, which is the new Arcane from the 99 update. Absolutely amazing. Gives you a 30% ability strength increase when you're invisible and a ×3 final crit multiplier on everything you do. Now with Prowl, what we're really going to be looking for is that headshot damage multiplier, 1.89x. So keep that in mind for later. And then our number 4 ability, Artemis Bow, will be subsumed for Empower. Empower is very straightforward. It gives us a 50% ability strength boost for the next ability that we're going to be using. And we are going to be using this all the time. We will be casting Empower and then casting Navigator almost all the time. Now you can use this in conjunction with any of these abilities. So before you go invisible, if you want, you can cast Empower, giving Prowl a 50% ability increase. This will increase the headshot damage multiplier on Prowl. Use Empower, cast Navigator. You will get a damage increase via that ability strength. Now, we do have some of these numbers broken down, and we're going to get into those in a minute. But first, let's go to the Archon Shards. So we are going to be slotting in 5 Tau Forged Violet Archon Shards for a 37% melee critical damage increase. And when we are maxed over 500 energy, we will double that in its entirety. So we will be stacking as much melee crit damage as possible. This is going to, again, drastically increase the type of damage that we are going to be able to output with the Glaive Prime. So we will not actually even be worrying about any other weapons other than the Glaive Prime paired with Navigator. Absolutely devastating combination. Even with the update nerfing the snapshot ability, if this is, if it is built right, you are able to really dive into a very, very high damage multiplier using Empowered Navigator, the Glaive Prime, these Tau Forged Archon Shards, the Prowl Invisibility, the Arcane Crescendo with Molt Augmented. So ultimately, this is going to end up giving us a massive boost that it's almost kind of exorbitantly wild, but we'll get into that in just a minute. So looking at the build itself, what we're actually going to be doing here is we're going to be, setting our strength at 223%, nothing too crazy. We're going to be slotting in Molt Augmented and Arcane Crescendo, which both work extremely well for Ivara to give us, right around a 90% damage ability increase when we're invisible. So we'll have that static 60% increase after we get 250 kills, and then Arcane Crescendo will give us that extra 30% ability strength while we're invisible, which we will be invisible all the time, so we will always have that. And that is going to be really great. Now, the magic here is the juice between Streamline, Fleeting Expertise, and Boreal's Hatred. So Streamline and Fleeting Expertise will get us to that 175% efficiency. It also helps knock us down to that 13% duration. So we're going to have this massively reduced duration, which is giving us this very high 8x multiplier growth for our Navigator. Now what happens though is even though we slot out Boreal's Hatred, we do not see an efficiency drop, but what we do see is a drain per second drop on both. So looking at Navigator, we see a 2.4 energy drain per second, but when we slot in Boreal's Hatred, which only has a 15% efficiency, we actually see Prowl drop down to 0.25 and Navigator drop down to 0.75. So from 2.4 to 0.75. So even though a negative duration will drastically, quote unquote, increase the drain of the energy per second, by slotting in all the efficiency and getting past our maximum efficiency threshold, we are still seeing an increase in that drain per second, which is utterly fantastic. Now, sitting with 855 energy, we can just sit invisible forever, and we can cast Empower, we can cast Navigator as much as we want. I mean, nothing stops us from just massively casting. We don't need Equilibrium, we do not need Arcane Energize, we don't need any real energy management whatsoever. And again, since we're going into this reverse, reduced duration, this negative duration build, we don't really have much to worry about. None of our abilities really take a duration cost, so we're kind of just hanging out, running around the map completely invisible, and we are controlling this Navigator. Now, the real beauty in this is going to lie in where, we get into the Glaive Prime. Now, for auras, whatnot, you can slot in whatever you want at that point. It really becomes more of a flex. We are using Ready Steel just to, generally give it to us, but you could easily slot in Growing Power. This will give you another 25% ability strength increase on weapon status, and we will be doing that a lot. So by all means, throw that bad boy in. Now, onto the other half of the magic of this build. We're going to be using the Glaive Prime as our predominant melee weapon. Now, you can use others, but this one is just utterly fantastic. So, we will be slotting in a ton of crit chance, as much crit damage as we can get, and we are also going to slot Toxin as our elemental damage. The reason being for this is we are going to get a force slash proc on the heavy attack, the heavy explosions of the Glaive Prime. Now, if you notice, we're not using volatile quick return on this build either. The reason being is because we are able to control the explosions in Navigator. We will not predominantly be using this outside of Navigator. So we're going to be able to control the explosions, get that really nice heavy explosion damage, that force slash proc, and then we're going to be able to use Toxin. This is going to allow us to absolutely obliterate all the factions. The force slash proc will terrorize the Grenier. The Toxin element will absolutely devastate the Corpus, and then the infested faction will get destroyed no matter what through all of this. So from there, slot in as much crit chance, crit damage as you can, throw in Prime Fever Strike to give you that Toxin damage, and then this is what our numbers are going to look like. So we're going to be sitting at 11.15x multiplier from Navigator. We're also going to be sitting at a 12.4x crit damage multiplier from the Glaive itself. And we are then going to times that by 12 via melee Crescendo for our combo multiplier. We are then also going to be able to randomly slot in the 1.89x headshot multiplier from Prowl, and we're going to slot in a ×2 headshot multiplier that is based to all headshots. From there, we are going to break it down as such. With the ability strength getting to 363%, we're able to look at our number as 18.15x from Navigator. We are going to times that by 12 via melee Crescendo. We are then going to times that by 12.4x from our crit damage multiplier with +3 from Arcane Comprexcular. And then we are going to multiply that by 3.89 via the headshot multiplier from Prowl and the ×2 multiplier that we get from all headshots. When all is said and done, we will be sitting at a 13,047x damage multiplier via Navigator and the Glaive Prime using Empowered and all of the other multipliers that we get. I mean, holy shit, you cannot get better than that. It just makes her an utterly monstrous melee frame. Make sure that you're slotting in Vazarin for your focus school, because you can use
a lot of varying other things to get finisher kills, but Vazarin by all means is going to be the easiest one. You're going to be able to realistically get it within 45 seconds to a minute of the mission itself. And for a lot of these level cap missions, you're going to definitely be running between 45 minutes to at least 3 to 4 hours if you're really going for a lot of resources or you're going to showcase and stress test a build. It's very nice to have Vazarin because not only are you getting the finisher kills, but you're able to get some healing abilities and whatnot from the focus school itself, and it is very nice to be able to get that quality of life. From there, we're going to slot in the Nautilus Prime. We're going to build this for status spreading. We're going to slot in Duplex Bond, and then we're going to use the Artax, which is able to separate heat and cold. We want a lot of clones, and we want as many clones as we can get. We want them absolutely everywhere, because the more priming that we get, the more damage that we're going to get to the enemies. We want to be absolutely devastating everything. Big shout out to Ivara.Prime, the Warframe member, for showing me the max efficiency build for Ivara. Also want to give a shout out to my clan members, Hairless Persian, Erica, and our new friend Cyber, Cowboy JWW. Thanks for running the 4-hour mission with me. Couldn't have done it without you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is another episode of Chronicles of the Origin System, where we showcase Warframe lore and backstories with those tasty level cap / damage cap builds. This is the Demon Prince, and I'll see you in the Void, Dreamers.